everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started at the top of the hour since we have a lot to cover today. My name is Elizabeth Jones, and I work for National Disability Institute, and we're so thrilled to have you join us today for Social Security Disability Insurance, Impact of Work on Benefits. Today's presenters are going to be myself, my colleague Nakia Matthews, and two special guest speakers who will be sharing with us their personal story. Slide, please. This agenda will be some housekeeping tips from Nakia Matthews to make sure you understand how to ask questions, an overview of the financial wellness survey we did to determine what topics we should provide for this webinar series, the impact of work on disability benefits, two guests who will provide their peers' perspective, and then suggested next steps. I'm Nakia Matthews, and she's going to give you some housekeeping tips.
Hello, everyone. The other webinar today is being broadcast through your computer. Please make sure your speakers are turned on or your headphones are turned up and plugged in. You control the audio broadcast via the audio broadcast panel, which you see an example of right here. It's a free-floating panel, so it's easy to accidentally close it, and if you do, don't worry. You can open it from the top menu by going to Communicate and then Join Audio Broadcast. As you see on the screen, if you do have sound or if you prefer to listen by phone, you can use the number with the meeting code listed here, and you do not need to enter an attendee ID. In the right-hand corner of your screen, we have closed captioning available for participants who are deaf, hard of hearing, or English as a second language. You can shut down this media viewer if it's taking up too much space, or you can make it bigger by closing some of the other sections like panelists, speakers, chat, Q&A. If you experience any technical difficulties during the webinar, you can use chat box to send a message to the host, me, Nakia Matthews, or you may email Elizabeth Jennings at ejennings@ndi-inc.org. At the end of the webinar, we're going to save time for a question and answer section. You can use the chat box or the Q&A box to send in the questions. You can hold off at the end, or you can send them as you think of during the webinar, and we'll be sure to get to all the questions we can. If you're listening by phone and not logged into the webinar, you may also ask questions by emailing Elizabeth directly, again, at ejennings@ndi-inc.org. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and that the materials will be placed on the NDI website within 4 hours.
Thank you, Nakia. Before we get started, we'd like to give a special thank you to our sponsor, Accorda Therapeutics, who provided the funding for this financial wellness webinar series. So another overview. Today we're going to talk about financial wellness and the relative strategies that you might apply, Social Security Disability Benefit Basics. We're going to give you some information about doorways to employment supports should you decide that you would like to look at a return to work. We're going to provide two special guest speakers who will give their peer perspective and some suggested next steps. And for the webinar, we're going to allow you to answer questions in ways that Nakia provided. Also, a reminder that if you have questions after the webinar, you can feel free to email me, Elizabeth Jennings. What is financial wellness? We define financial wellness as the state of a person's finances, the intent of working towards financial behaviors that limit stress, and the impact of stress on one's daily life. A lot about wellness, physical wellness, emotional wellness. Financial wellness can actually be just as important, as the stress of your financial situation can also cause issues of stress in other areas of your life. So taking a look at your finances and making some efforts toward improving them can help limit your stress and even maybe improve your overall health. When we financial wellness, we're looking at several different things specific to our work and what we think the needs of individuals who have disabilities may be. Being financially literate, accessing affordable financial services, utilizing favorable tax provisions, funding public benefit rules, building and maintaining assets, accessing available health care subsidies, and understanding the impact of work on long-term disability. If you have the time to participate in all of the webinars in this series, we touch upon all of these things. If you happen to miss one of the webinars, you can always view them at our website, and I'll provide you with more information on that at the end of the webinar. Talk about financial wellness is because individuals with disabilities live in poverty at higher rates than those without. In the 2010 census, we learned that individuals ages 18 to 64, for those without disabilities, they live below the poverty level at a rate of about 12.8%. For individuals with disabilities, they lived below the poverty level at rates more than 2 times that. The rate was 27.3%. So you see that as individuals have or incur disabilities, the chances that they will live below poverty increases. No group in America is more deserving of economic recovery. For working-age adults with disabilities, a dependence on public benefits for income, health care, food, and housing becomes a trap that requires limiting income to remain eligible. Some may have already seen this as you start to look at different public benefits. You can see that there are income restrictions, asset restrictions, and limitations on how much you can earn once you're on that public benefit. So we're going to touch upon that for SSDI, which is Social Security Disability Insurance, and we'll help you to understand how, although those rules may make it appear as though you can only earn so much, that there are work incentives that allow you to earn over that amount while making it count as less than, kind of like tax deductions work. Make sure that you're equipped with good information because you don't want to be held to public benefit rules when there are other opportunities within those rules, such as these work incentives, to allow you to earn more and save more. So financial wellness is important. As I touched upon, it impacts your physical and mental health. It can impact your self-concept, make you feel as though you are not doing as well as you maybe were doing previously. It can change your status with other community stakeholders, and it directly impacts your quality of life. You are realizing there becomes new cost associated with doing some of your previously easy-to-do daily activities. And so it's important to be considering those finances and looking to programs or services that can help you to defer some of those costs. We study of individuals with MS along with our partners at MSAA so we could better understand where individuals with MS were in relation to their finances and what kind of information would be helpful to them in a webinar series. I'll give you about 6 points that we found that we felt were relevant. One is that 55% of households earn less than $35,000 annually, and 16.4% earn less than $50,000, but more than $35,000. Without the ability to pay all of their bills in a typical month, 32% of people said they were having a very difficult time paying bills, and almost 50% reported that they were having a somewhat difficult time. 4% of respondents reported that their financial status affected their ability to access medical care at some point. 7.7%, or almost 2/3, responded that they did not have enough savings to cover 3 months' expenses. And some of you may know, experts are now telling us we should try to keep 6 months' expenses in the bank. So you can imagine the numbers if we had put 6 months. 7% of respondents reported that their finances were worse since their MS diagnosis. And almost 2/3, or 73% of respondents, reported that they were not aware of or they had not used different financial stability programs that we're discussing through this webinar series, including EITC, which is the Earned Income Tax Credit, IDs, which are Individual Development Accounts, FS, which is Family Self-Sufficiency Programs, S, Plan for Achieving Self-Support. I'm going to talk about these in subsequent webinars, so if you have a chance, I hope you'll tune into them. A lot of financial wellness strategies exist. We've named some of them, but just to go over them one more time, they're financial literacy, budgeting, credit repair, and getting banked. Most on the line are probably banked, but the rates for individuals with disabilities that are unbanked are actually quite high. The use of work incentives, tax incentives, voluntary income tax assistance, and the Earned Income Tax Credit. State Medicaid buy-in programs, which we're going to talk about today. Different programs that allow you to save money without impacting your public benefits, such as family self-sufficiency programs and individual development accounts. Programs like assistive technology loan funds, student loans, and retirement accounts. Things you're saving towards or that will help you to earn more: post-secondary education, employment, self-employment, microenterprise, and home ownership. And then this bottom level bundle, which are opportunities for assistance, protection advocacy programs, hire advocates, credit counseling services, voluntary income tax assistance, and benefits planning. And we're going to talk about benefits planning today. Start with our discussion of Social Security Disability Benefits. A chance to join us last year's webinar series, we actually talked about Social Security Disability Insurance and Supplemental Security Income on the same webinar. But that it was probably too much information. So today we're going to talk about just Social Security Disability Insurance. And in a few weeks from now on our next webinar, we're going to talk about Supplemental Security Income. The Social Security Administration provides both of those programs to support individuals with disabilities who prove that they have an inability to work at a substantial level. Many individuals, once they are on these programs, need to return to work, but get a lot of misinformation about what will happen to their benefits. They are afraid that if they work, they will lose those benefits. The Social Security Administration provides within the policy opportunities called work incentives that make it possible for you to test your ability to work and to work at certain levels and continue to receive some or all of your cash and health benefits. We'll talk about work incentives today. You are in the process of applying for Social Security Disability Insurance, or SSA. It's very important for you to understand that you have to prove two things. You prove that you have a documented medical disability that will last 12 months or longer or result in death, and that you meet Social Security's definition of disability. And that is that you have, as I mentioned, a documented medical disability that will last 12 months or longer or result in death. And because of that disability, you are not able to work and earn a substantial amount of money. The individuals who do not have to prove these two things to the Social Security Administration are individuals who are blind. They do not have to prove that they're unable to work. They only have to prove that they meet Social Security's level of blindness. So mention that you're proving that you're unable to work at a substantial level. And Social Security calls that substantial gainful activity, or SGA. SGA is the performance of significant mental or physical health duties for pay, determined to be gross earnings of an amount of money that's set every year. So I say that to mean that next year these dollar amounts will change. To meet this test, a person has to be working, or if working, earning less than the SGA amount. So by that I mean, in order to prove that you meet Social Security's definition of disability, which you may recall is you're proving that you have a documented medical disability will last 12 months or longer or result in death, And because of that disability, you're not able to work and earn at a substantial level. Substantial level is SGA, and the amount for 2012 is $10.10 per month for non-blind individuals and $6.90 per month for blind individuals. There are some other things you have to prove to be eligible for SSDI. You have to meet that definition of disability, that you have a documented medical disability that will last 12 months or longer or result in death. And because of that disability, you're not able to work and earn at a substantial level, which is $10.10 per month in 2012. You have to have the required work credits. You have to be somebody who worked and paid into the Social Security system. Or it's possible that you didn't pay in enough, but you are what's called a disabled adult child, meaning that you incur your disability before age 22. You're not legally married to a non-Title II beneficiary. That's a little bit of Social Security jargon. Sorry about that. And you are still tied to your parents' records, meaning that your parent is deceased, disabled, or retired. Let me just go over that one more time. So you either need to have paid enough into the system to draw back out, or you need to still be connected to your parents' record and have incurred your disability before age 22, and the parent has to be deceased, disabled, or retired. CI comes with health insurance. It's called Medicare. Individual will wait 24 months for their Medicare to start. Once it does start, you'll get Part A for free, and then Part B and Part D you will be charged a premium for. There is a month waiting period before individuals on SSDI start to receive their cash benefit. And you're going to want to keep in mind that SGA amount of $10.10 per month because it is going to be important throughout. But it's also important to know that there's no set limit for SSDI. So this is the kind of program that you can apply to, and you don't need to worry about all of the different assets that you have. There's no issue about you having 401ks or IRAs or, money in an account. It's of no consequence under SSDI. What they really want to know is, do you meet the definition of disability? Do you have a documented medical disability that will last 12 months or longer or result in death? And because of that disability, are you not able to work and earn $10.10 per month in 2012 and have the required work credits, or you qualify as a disabled adult child? On to the Social Security rolls. Security is going to periodically check to make sure that you continue to meet their definition of disability. All these continuing disability reviews, and you come onto the rolls, your file is marked for how frequently you're going to receive these reviews. Some people receive them yearly, some every 3 years, some every 5 years, some every 7 years. It depends on the type of disability you had and the decision that Security made when you came onto the rolls as to how frequently they were going to review you. When you look at these continuing disability reviews, you'll get them in the mail. You can keep in mind that Social Security is making sure that you meet their definition of disability. They continue to have a documented medical disability that will last 12 months or longer or result in death. And because of that disability, you're not able to work and earn at a substantial level. One thing that happens when individuals are applying for Social Security or when they're doing their continuing disability reviews is that they take a lot of time to provide information on what they are able to do. And these documents really aren't a time for that. I know it probably would feel very defeating. However, it's important to let Social Security know where your disability is creating barriers for you. It is by demonstrating to them that you are having challenges performing activities of daily living. So simple things like a question about whether or not you can clean your home. All of you may say, I can clean my home. If cleaning your home wiped you out for the rest of the day, it's very important to note that. you're to demonstrate to Social Security how your disability is impacting your life. If there's no impact on your activities of daily living and your ability to work, you don't belong on Social Security disability insurance. So try to keep that in mind as you're filling out your forms and as you're responding to these ongoing and continuing disability reviews. Some important points about SSDI, and then I want to start to talk about what happens should you decide to return to work. The first point is that SSDI, I like to say they're obsessed with SGA. They're very focused on this. This is the measure of whether or not your disability is impacting your ability to work. So as individuals work and earn, they want to know, are you earning over SGA, which in 2012 is $10.10 per month for blind individuals and $16.90 per month for blind individuals. So you want to keep this in mind. As you work and earn over this amount, you're showing a pattern of being able to work and earn at a substantial level, which that you are proving to Social Security that you do not meet their definition of disability. The important point to remember with SSDI is that there is not an asset limit. Some in the community, this gets confused because the other Social Security program, SSI, Supplemental Security Income, have a $2,000 asset limit, as do most state Medicaid programs. But SSDI and Medicare do not. So I just want to make sure you're aware of that. So I want to talk about work incentives. I'm giving you a little comparison chart. I'm sorry for the small type, but you see side by side that Social Security Disability Insurance has several work incentives, and the program that we're not talking about today, Supplemental Security Income, also has work incentives. I wanted you to be able to see side by side that the work incentives are not the same. There are some that belong under both programs, but not all. And so it's really important when you are talking to friends, neighbors, family members, other program providers, that you are thoughtful that sometimes people give information about SI, but you only want information about SSDI, unless one of those folks that actually receives both benefits, which does happen. But we're only going to talk about Social Security Disability Insurance work incentives. Okay, so an individual on SSDI decides to return to work. The first time period that they're in is called the trial work period. Each individual is entitled to a 9-month trial work period that gives you a chance to test your work skills while maintaining your full cash benefit. So during this time period, you are allowed to work and earn as much money as you want and still entitled to your full cash benefit. SSDI program, you either get your full SSDI check or none of your SSDI check when you're working. So this time period allows you to earn as much money as you can, still be entitled to your full check. So you get 9 months, and you use up one of your 9 months, you earn $720 or more. So this is different than the SGA amount, I know, but this is called the trial work period amount. So if you return to work next month and you worked part-time just starting out and you earned under $720, let's say you earned $600, that doesn't really count for anything. But if you earned, say, $200, you would have used up one of your trial work period months, but you'd still be entitled to your full cash benefit. It ends when you've used up 9 months over a 5-year period. So you don't have to use the 9 months up all in a row. You get 5 years. And the reason why Social Security set it up this way is because they recognize that when you're making a return to work, you may get a job and it's just not the right job. It might be a job match. It might not be a good match based upon your physical, mental, emotional needs are. A lot of factors, but they expect that people will buy a job and possibly it not work out, and so they'll move on to a different job. And that you may try work and find you just weren't ready, and so you may take a while before you decide to go back again. Whatever reason, the time period is really beneficial to you because it gives you 9 months to test your work skills. So there's a chance not to go back and stay just under SGA, but a chance to really see, is it possible for me to work at a level where I could come off of the SSDI roles? That's what you really want to know in this time period. If you're not going to choose to do that, that's okay, but that's the real power of the trial work period. The real power is that it gives you a chance to go out and test your work skills and see if there is a job match that would allow you to earn enough that you would be over the SGA amount and be able to come off of the SSDI roles. Some of you on the line are thinking, why on earth would I want to come off of the roles? But then there are others of you on the line that are thinking, that is what I would like to do. So that's the power of the trial work period. You 9 months within 5 years, and you use up a month when you earn $720 or more during that month. When you use up your 9 trial work period months, you go on to the next time period, which is the extended period of eligibility. The period is 36 months all in a row, and you do not have the option of spreading those 36 months out. It's 36 months in a row. So once this time period starts, there is no way to stop the clock. The 36-month period begins the month after the last trial work period month. This time period, Social Security wants to know, are you over SGA or are you under SGA? And remember, SGA in 2012 is $10 per month for blind individuals, $16.90 per month for blind individuals. So if over SGA, you're not entitled to your cash benefit. If you're under SGA, you are entitled. During this time period, that's the real thing Social Security wants to know. Are you over, meaning you're entitled to your cash benefit, or are you under SGA, meaning you are entitled? It can be the kind of time period where people get really stuck on, I have to stay under that 1010 per month amount, or SGA. And that's understandable, but we're going to talk in a minute about some work incentives that you can use to help with that. I just want to say that at the end of the 36 months, if you are working and earning over SGA, you're going to come off of the rolls. You're not going to be entitled to your SSDI cash benefit anymore, but your Medicare is going to stay in place for at least 8.5 years, and beyond that time, you're allowed to purchase your Medicare. Under SGA, at the end of the extended period of eligibility, you can continue to work and earn under SGA, but if you do go over SGA at some point, you are at risk of coming off of the rolls. So there are a few work incentives that allow you to work and earn over SGA, but kind of demonstrate to Social Security that even though you are able to work and earn over SGA in a dollar amount, it's only because of certain expenses that you're incurring that should then be deducted to help possibly bring your countable earnings on the SGA amount. And it's a little bit confusing. So let's go through this work incentive first, and then we'll revisit that. This one is called impairment-related work expenses. The expenses that you pay for yourself to go to work because of your disability. So, for example, if you're someone who is taking medications in order to manage your disability, and without those medications you would not be able to go to work, you deduct the cost that you pay of those medications. So say I pay $300 per month in medications, and I'm $1,200. I can deduct the $300 cost that I paid for those IRWEs, remember the medications, and so even though I worked and earned $1,200, Social Security would count it as $900. So multiple earnings of $900 are below the SSA amount of $1,010, and so I'd still be eligible for my cash benefit. Individuals are going to have a different level of expenses. You can think of anything that you pay for yourself to go to work because of your disability. So it can include any kind of durable medical equipment. It could include if you're somebody who's using a personal care attendant to help you get up and get ready in the morning, the cost of that personal care attendant could be deducted. Any of the medicines that you use, the cost of going to see the doctor to get the medicine. If someone who is using a modified vehicle, you can charge mileage back and forth. If you happen to be someone on the line who's blind and you're using a service animal or have other expenses related to that disability, you could deduct those costs. This really allows you to look at any cost that you pay for yourself to go to work because of your disability. If it's something you're paying for that everybody else pays for, say a uniform, that would not count. But if it's a cost that you incur because of your disability to go to work, that's a cost that, as long as it's reasonable and is paid for by you in the month that you work, should be deductible by Social Security. There's a few people running in wheelchairs, cushions, yes, all good examples of things that you may pay for yourself to go to work because of your disability. This can be a very powerful option for individuals who may want to return to work but are very concerned or not ready to work and earn over that 1010 amount, which is understandable. You may not be able to work and earn over 1010, but because of all of these costs, your countable earnings will count as less than that amount. I want to give you a little bit of information on how you report these IRWEs to Social Security. But I want to tell you, there's no time limit in using IRWEs. You can use them every month if it's applicable to you. And if it's a big expense, it doesn't have to be done monthly. You could divide a big expense up over several months. So let's say you or somebody is going to need a mobility device, let's say a wheelchair or scooter or something of that nature. You could talk with your Social Security claims rep about dividing the cost of that, your cost, not the insurance cost, but your cost, over several months so that you can get a bigger bang for that deduction. With IRWEs, first month you use one, I would recommend that you make an appointment with your local Social Security office and you plan to go in there with the receipts for the cost that you had, the reason for the cost, and your pay stubs. You want to meet not with the front office. Let's about your local Social Security office. Many of you have been in there. There's a front desk where you can talk to someone through a glass. That's not who you want to talk to. You want to call the 1-800 number, which is 1-772-1213. And Nick, could you put that out to everyone so they can do it? 1-800-772-1213. And you want to ask to make an appointment with a Social Security claims representative, and you want to get back behind that glass window that you can meet with someone who's more a specialist on returning to work. You want to talk to them about the money that you earned, the IRWEs that you'd like to claim, and you want to ask them with what frequency would they like you to report this back to them. Regardless of what they tell you about the frequency of reporting, I'd like to advocate to you that you continue to keep receipts for the things that you spend, the costs that you have, and that you want to make sure that you have that in the event that Social Security should ever ask you for proof of those costs. Another incentive that I'd like to talk to you about is called subsidies. Actually two in here. It's subsidies and special conditions. I'm going to talk about them a little bit separately. A subsidy allows you to deduct the value of a service provided to you by an employer, and a condition allows you to to deduct the value of a service provided to you by an organization. So, for example, your employer may provide some kind of accommodation on the job. Perhaps they gave you some assistive technology attached to your computer, or they provided some other accommodation for you. You can deduct the value of that from your gross earnings. Or they provide other things like, say, extra supervision. May they have carved up a job for you that has potentially lower productivity or less deliverables than, say, similar positions. Or maybe they do something as simple as they give you extra time off so that you can manage doctor appointments or manage your energy levels. Or maybe they allow you to telecommute. What your employer provided based upon your disability, think about a dollar value that could be attached to that. If you have a good employer who will discuss this with you, that is ideal. Because whatever value the employer tells Social Security will accept that as the word of God. If you don't want to disclose to your employer that you have a disability, but you've still managed to be provided with some disability-specific services, you just haven't disclosed, then you want to negotiate with the local Social Security office. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that on the next slide. When you get services by an organization, at the end of the webinar, we're going to talk about some supports you can turn to for return to work services. Services that those organizations provide can also be deducted. They can be assigned a dollar value, and they can be deducted by your gross earnings, from your gross earnings. Just so you can think about what this really means is Social Security wants to know what's your personal ability to work in relation to your disability. So think about a bridge. If a bridge can hold 1,000 pounds, but with reinforcements, so extra supports underneath, it can hold 1,200 pounds. What you really want to show Social Security is what you can do without the extra supports. That's where SGA comes in. So all these extra supports, if the IRWEs, if the extra supports your employer provided, if the support an organization provided, if they bolster you up to over the SGA amount, make sure Social Security understands. I know it looks like I can work and earn over SGA, but you took it all away. If you took the support the organization provided me away, if you took the accommodations my employer has made away, if you took my medications away, if you took all of these things away, I would not be able to work and earn under SGA. That's the essence of these work incentives. They want to know, what do you do? How much can you perform? Just baseline. So work incentives give you a chance to identify to Social Security. I know it looks like I can work and earn over SGA, but if you remove all of these supports, I'm able to. I will meet your definition of disability. Back to subsidies. So subsidies can be applied during two times. They apply during the initial eligibility process. So if any of you on the line are thinking about applying for Social Security disability insurance, and you're currently working or you've been thinking about working, there's a message out there that you can't be working and apply for SSDI. That's not really true. You can't be working and earning over SGA. So you are working and earning over that 1010 SGA amount, but you do recognize that you have a subsidy in play. You're able to do that level of work because of services being provided by your employer or by an organization. You make sure that you're documenting that with your initial disability application. It also can be applied for any of you that are working. So once you return to work, once you have actually earned a paycheck, you want to report to Social Security that there is a subsidy or a special condition in play so that they can review that, document it, and determine with you or with your employer what the value of that subsidy will be. here's a little bit of evidence on receiving a subsidy. If you get extra support on the job, if you have lower productivity, or if you have different job functions than your coworkers, they're all indications of a subsidy. How you report this to Social Security is much like I suggested for the IRWEs. You have to call the 1-800 number, 1-800-772-1213. You schedule an appointment to meet with a claims representative at your local Social Security office. And when you sit down to talk to them, you want to bring your pay stubs with you, and you want to bring anything that you can that you feel documents the fact that you have a subsidy at play. If your employer is open to working with you on this, then Social Security will send a form to your employer for them to complete so you can document the value of your subsidy. If you want to let Social Security know, I have not disclosed to my employer, I do not want you to send them a request for information about subsidies related to my disability, and you want to work with the claims rep to determine the value. Just like last time, you want to also ask the claims rep the frequency in which they want you to continue to verify that a subsidy is at play. Again, continue to document that support in the event that you get a different claims for whatever reason Social Security later on decides that they want proof of a subsidy. Holding questions until the end, but one question that was asked is relative to this moment in time, and that's the question of what comes first, working or notifying Social Security of your intention to work. And just so you can understand the Social Security office a little bit, their main priority is getting people onto the Social Security rolls. Someone that goes into your local Social Security office, or you call the 1-800 number and ask questions about returning to work, they're probably not likely to be very enthusiastic about your questions or to often provide really good information. The individuals that can do this for you are the people I mentioned behind the glass who are in the cubicles of the Social Security office, and those are the claims representatives and another personnel member within a local office called a work incentive liaison. Those folks that understand return to work. Everybody else, their priority is getting people onto the rolls. So if you're on and you want to return to work, you're not really the priority. And also, it's a little confusing for some in the Social Security office because in order to get on the rolls, you proved that you couldn't work. So some people, they're a little bit confused. Why would you be talking about returning to work? You already proved that you couldn't work. That's just a little bit of Social Security culture. So notifying Social Security that you intend to work is not necessary. What you want to do is once you are working, once you have a pay stub, you want to make sure you're reporting that work, and you want to make sure that you have a chance to meet with a claims rep so that you can understand how they want it reported, how you will know for sure that they applied it to your record, and how you can claim work incentives. Because in the future, you don't want to end up in a situation where you have an overpayment because you were working and were potentially not entitled to your cash benefit but still received it. So individuals who go through this process, they use their 9 months of trial work, they move into the extended period of eligibility. Maybe they do use IRWEs and subsidies, maybe they don't, but they find that they are working and earning over the SGA amounts. They eventually come off of the Social Security rolls or medically improve, and they come off of the Social Security rolls because of that. There are a few options when that happens, and I wanted to tell you about them. One of them is Section 301. If you come off of the Social Security rolls, you lose your SSDI entitlement because you medically improve. And Section 301 can be applied to you if you are participating in essentially a return to work program. So you want to be able to prove that you're participating in a vocational rehabilitation or return to work program. And if you can prove that, you're going to be able to maintain your eligibility for SSDI until your plan within that program ends. Also applicable, not that I imagine there are many students on here, but this is also applicable to students ages 18 to 21 who medically recover but are still participating in their school district's education and have an individual education plan. This is another situation where you want to advise Social Security that you're participating in such a program, and you want to work with the vocational rehabilitation program to get Social Security the proof that they'll need. Thing that you can do if you come off of the rolls, if you come off of the rolls because you are working and earning at the SJ level or above, is to use what's called expedited reinstatement. Expedited reinstatement allows individuals who lose eligibility because of work to request to come back on the rolls within 60 months of leaving, so with 5 years. You can do this if you become unable to work and earn over SGA because of same or similar medical condition. So what I mean by this is if you come off of the rolls, you have 5 years to call Security back and say, I am no longer working earning over SGA because of the same or similar medical condition, and I'd like to come back on to SSDI. Security will give you up to 6 months of provisional benefits, so your cash benefit and your health care, if you are beyond the time that you, mostly you would still be eligible for your health care, but just in case, what is being reviewed. If during that case review they determine you are not still disabled, you are coming back on the rolls, do not pay back the 6 months of provisional benefits that you received. This was designed really to be a safety net for individuals. So Security recognizes that if you have disability and proved that you met their definition of disability and then return to work, it's really a leap of faith. It's really a scary process to make that personal decision to decide, I'm ready. I'm try to work at a level where I am no longer eligible for this SSDI cash benefit. And so we wanted to make sure that they provided an opportunity for people who then were able to continue to work at that level to come back onto the rolls. That they gave you the option to, within 5 years, to call and say, this didn't work. I was able to work and earn over SGA. I'm not anymore, and I'd like to come back on the rolls. And those also always have a second option. You always have the option of reapplying for benefits, which means you essentially will go through the same initial application procedure that you went when you first came onto the rolls. So move on to Ticket to Work. I just want to go through SSI again in a nutshell. I know it was a lot of information. It's not every bit of information that you could have about Social Security disability insurance, but it gives you a good idea of the basics. It's important to remember that in order to receive SSDI, you're proving that you have a documented medical disability that lasts 12 months or longer or results in death. Because of that disability, you're not able to work and earn at a substantial level, or GA, which 2012 is $10.10 per month for non-blind individuals, $16.90 per month for blind individuals. Those who get SSDI also have paid enough into the system or are disabled adult children, which means that they incur disability before age 22. They're still connected to their parent's record, and their parent is deceased, disabled, or retired. To get SSDI, get Medicare after a 24-month waiting period, and get their cash benefit after a 5-month waiting period. And there is no asset limit for SSDI. If you decide to return to work, the first time period that you have is called the trial work period. The work period gives you an opportunity to test your work skills. It is 9 months over a rolling 60-month period, and that you earn $720 or more, you've used up one of your 9 months. And regardless of how much money you earn a month, you maintain your cash benefits. When you've used 9 months over a 60-month period, your trial work period is done. You move on to the next time period, which is called the extended period of eligibility. This time period, which is 36 months all in all, Social Security wants to know, are you working and earning over the SGA amounts, or are you working and earning under the SGA amounts? If you're over SGA, you are not entitled to your cash benefit. Under SGA, you are entitled to your cash benefit. Individuals who are working and earning over SGA can consider work incentives, meaning ERWEs or fees. ERWEs are items that you pay for yourself to go to work because of your disability. You deduct the cost of those supports from your gross earnings. Subsidies are the value of supports that are provided to you by your employer or by an organization, which are called special conditions. Work incentives allow Social Security to recognize that even though it looks like you're able to work and earn over the SGA amount, it will, if you removed those supports, you would not be able to do so. Work incentives are very important, not only because they could mean the difference between receiving your cash benefit or not, but because they constantly paint a picture for Social Security about how your disability is impacting your ability to work, which is important. At the end of the extended period of eligibility, if you are working and earning over SGA, or you have demonstrated a pattern of being able to work and earn over SGA, you are coming off of the rolls. If you want to come back on, you can look at EXPEDITED reinstatement, which gives 60 months to show to let Social Security know that you're no longer able to work and earn over SGA because of your disability. You'll get 6 months of provisional benefits. And if you're determined to be back on, you will be. And if you're not, you do not pay back the 6 months. Your option is to reapply for benefits. So that was SSDI, and I think it was 3 minutes. I realize that is very condensed and certainly doesn't give you the full level of detail, but gives you a good idea of how SSDI works and what you might consider as you start to think about a return to work. Many may have heard about the Ticket to Work program or received information in the mail from Social Security about this program. I personally thought that Ticket to Work was a great opportunity for individuals, but there's always some misinformation or misunderstanding about how the program works. So I wanted to give you a little bit of information on that. The thing you should know is that Ticket to Work is a voluntary program for people on SSDI. You do not have to participate. It is for individuals who want to return to work. If you're thinking, this is great information, but I don't think I'm ready, then don't worry. It's voluntary. If you're on the line and you're thinking, I think I'm ready, I want to start to look at this more, then you can consider exploring your options under Ticket to Work. Participating in the Ticket to Work program really only does 2 things. It gives you choice in who you're going to turn to for your return to work services. People that you can turn to are called employment networks, and I'm going to talk about them in a minute. And the second thing the program provides is if you're using your ticket, then you have a suspension of your continuing disability review. You remember from earlier today, this hour, continuing disability review is Social Security checking up that you continue to have a documented medical disability that prevents you from working at a substantial level. And individuals get those reviews either every year, every 3 years, every 5 years, or every 7 years. If you're somebody who has concerns that you will have a continuing disability review during a moment in time when you're doing really well, maybe a moment in time when you're in a period of remission, then you might really want to consider using your ticket to work, because it would suspend that continuing disability review, which means that you wouldn't have one while you're participating in the Ticket to Work program. Not while your ticket is assigned to someone, but while you're actively participating. Something really to consider when you have a cyclical illness, it's something you may really want to consider. The National Program Manager for the Ticket to Work program is Maximus, and I've given their phone numbers there. It's 866-968-7842. But to me, I would start out by looking at the website, www.chooseworkttw.net. This is the website that they've created for beneficiaries. So for people like yourselves who are interested in better understanding the Ticket to Work program and kind of what it would mean for you. They have some great archives on that website of different disability benefit trainings. They have success stories. They have all kinds of information up there, and the opportunities for you to ask questions. So if you're thinking about returning to work, I think this is a great place to start if you want to use your ticket. Individuals that have signed up to participate in the Ticket to Work program are called employment networks, and there are organizations, businesses, anybody except a federal entity who has signed up with the Social Security Administration to provide vocational services under Ticket to Work. The way that they receive money from Social Security is when you achieve certain levels of work. These organizations are committed to helping you find employment and to work at consistently high levels that they can continue to receive their funding from the Social Security Administration. One warning about that is that because they want you to continue to work at increasingly higher levels, their ultimate goal is for you to work at a level where you no longer receive a cash benefit. That's the ultimate goal of the Ticket to Work program. So before you dive right in, you may want to think about that. You may want to think about whether or not you want to be someone who sets and works at increasingly high levels until the point that you're no longer eligible and you eventually come off of the SSDI roles. You can get more information at chooseworkttw.net. And after this webinar, you can also reach out to me for other questions that you have. The organizations that are mandatory employment networks are your state vocational rehabilitation offices, and I'm going to talk about them in just a minute. Opportunity I want to make sure you know about before we talk about making some supports to help you make the return to work are Medicaid buy-in programs. Medicaid buy-in programs and the Ticket to Work program and a couple of the enhancements that Social Security made to their work incentives all were provided under legislation called the Ticket to Work and Work Incentives Improvement Act that President Clinton passed just before he left office. The Medicaid buy-in programs have popped up in about 30-some-odd states, not a state, unfortunately, and are programs that allow you as an individual with a disability to buy into a state's Medicaid program. The great thing about these programs is that they have much, much higher income and asset limits than your standard state Medicaid program will have. For example, in the state of New York, I believe the income limit for a couple is over $70,000 a year, and I think the asset guidelines is pretty similar. So that is significantly higher than a traditional state Medicaid income limit would be. I gave you a website resource that links you to many Medicaid buy-in programs around the country. Unfortunately, there's not really one place to find Medicaid buy-in programs because they are state-run, and vary from state to state. So your best bet is to start with your state Medicaid office, but if you have any challenge at all locating the Medicaid buy-in program in your state, you can reach out to me and I'll provide you some assistance or make a good connection within your state to someone who can help you with that. State Medicaid buy-in programs often require that the person be working. So if you are thinking, that's great, I really need Medicaid right now, your Medicaid buy-in program may not allow you to do that because most of them, I would gather to guess all of them, require that you be employed time or part-time in some very nominal level of work effort that was designed to support individuals as they make a return to work. I intended for us to do our peer perspective. I want to give you just a little bit more information, and then I'll come back to this slide in just a minute. I want to share with you a few of the supports that are designed to assist you as you think about this return to work. One is benefit planners. Benefit planners vary from state to state. They are individuals who have been trained by Social Security's contractors who have been traditional in Commonwealth University or Cornell University or ourselves, National Disability Institute, although we did not do it as, actually we did start as a Social Security contractor. And some organizations provide training to community-based staff in different organizations to be able to provide benefits planning to individuals with disabilities who are thinking about or have made a return to work. They typically provide this assistance free of charge, or the charge is charged to an entity like vocational rehabilitation. They provide typically information also about your health benefit coverage, and because they used to be funded by Social Security up until earlier this year, in fact, the list of providers on Social Security's website is really the best place to start to be able to find the benefit planner in your local area. Social Security has for 10 years now funded an array of organizations to provide benefits planning at no charge. That funding ended earlier this year, so that earlier this year, however, in my mind, this list of providers, those who had formerly been funded up until really just a few months ago, will be the best place to find in your local area who is now providing that support. So I don't rephrase that. The list of providers on Social Security's website may or may not be providing that information that serves right now, but they will be the best first point of contact to find out who in your local area is providing benefits planning. So again, that there's not an easy way to give everyone across the country at one time information on who to turn to for benefits planning in your local area, but unfortunately that's a link that just doesn't exist. So this is the best bet, and if you have any challenge at all in finding out who the benefit planner in your local area, again, I invite you to email me and I'll help you to do that work. So every state, up until a few months ago, had been funded by Social Security protection and advocacy supports. Most of the time, the protection and advocacy organization was the protection and advocacy for that state, meaning an organization that existed before these grants from Social Security and continues to exist after these grants. So protection and advocacy is a great resource for you if you find any barrier because of your disability and you want some advice or some support in overcoming that barrier. We get a list of providers, again, from Social Security website. And again, if you have problems finding the right protection advocacy organization for your state, you can feel free to reach out to me. So some doorways to employment supports. The state agencies, Department of Labor, one-stop centers, independent living resource centers, the Social Security Ticket to Work program, as we've discussed, and some initiatives around the federal hiring of people with disabilities. The STAR program exists in every state, and it's a state-federal partnership that is responsible in each state for the employment of people with disabilities, not for people to obtain employment, but also to maintain employment. Counselors have extensive specialized training, and they work with their customers to identify employment goals, assess or test where skills and aptitude are, and provide access to assistive technology and other employment supports. If you're online and you are currently working, you need some support and accommodations in maintaining jobs, vocational rehabilitation can be a good point of contact to understand what they can provide to assist you. If you are thinking of returning to work, vocational rehabilitation can be a good point of contact to see what services and supports they can provide to you in your return to work. Some states have different level of service that they can offer, and some states have some income and asset eligibility requirements. We do with the state agencies and contacts by that link, and it's also available later in this webinar. The Department of Labor one-stop centers are available in every community, and they're open to anyone, whether you have a disability or not. If you've never visited your one-stop center, I really encourage you to take a trip over there and see what they have to offer. Sometimes they offer service that you may want to use now, even before you're ready to return to work. Things that you can take to keep your skills updated, to learn new computer skills. They provide computer links so that you can use them when you're ready to apply for jobs, to resumes. There may be a wealth of information about the different supports that are available to you as you think about making a return to work. They're also a great resource when you are ready to return to work, as their whole mandate is to get anyone in the community who needs support back to work. The Deployment Initiative is a part of the Department of Labor, and it's a grant-funded initiative that they've been running. They provide support to 23 states to improve training and employment opportunities for adults with disabilities. In each state, DEI is in different local areas. It provides to that local area a disability resource coordinator or a single individual who is helping individuals with disabilities to utilize the one-stop and connect to supports to return to work. If you're interested in going to the one-stop, but you're thinking, I'm not really sure, I think I'd rather have an idea of what they can provide to me related to my disability, you might check to see if there's a DEI site near you, and you can do so by using the link that's on the slide. Another resource in each local area is Independent Living Resource Centers. Independent Living Resource Centers, or sometimes called Centers for Independent Living, are grassroots, advocacy-driven organizations that are run by and for people with disabilities. Independent centers have 4 core services. They're individual and systems advocacy, information and referral, support, and independent living skills training. This is another center that if you have never gone to visit in your local area, I really highly recommend that you take a trip over there, find out what kind of services they provide. This can be a great opportunity if your disability is one that may manifest in different ways, and you may come to a point where you need different assistive technology, or you may need mobility for it, or you may just need to understand a different way of doing different activities of daily living. Your independent living center can be a great resource for that. There's also the kind of center that would have practical information on where people are turning to have their homes modified, how people are paying for that, what kind of other disability supports are available in your local area. To me, an independent living resource center is the go-to point for disability information in your local area. We get a directory there, and I also have it later in the slide so that you have all of them on one page. So just hold tight. We're going to get to that in a minute. In the interest of time, I feel like we've fully discuss the Social Security Ticket to Work program. So to federal hiring of people with disabilities. The federal hiring of people with disabilities is important because as we think about individuals with disabilities being a part of every workforce, we really need the federal government to be the model for that. And many people inside of the federal government agree with that assessment and have done some great work to try to make that more of a reality. The federal government does provide opportunities for individuals with disabilities through a process that they called Schedule A hiring. And Schedule A is a hiring authority available to different federal agencies for individuals with disabilities without them competing for the job. So this is a way into the federal government without having to compete for the job against other non-disabled individuals. We give you 2 links there that give you information about federal hiring initiatives, and then one that gives you information specifically about Schedule A. Many of you are probably trying to feverishly write down these links as we go through them. Nika did post in the chat box that where you could retrieve these slides. Again, if you miss anything, you can email me, Elizabeth Jennings, after the webinar. Here's a slide that I think we're going to stay on as we talk to our guest presenters. This gives you all of the different return to work resources, how you can connect with a VAR agency, Department of Labor One-Stop Center, Independent Living Resource Center, the Ticket to Work program, or how you can learn more about the federal hiring of people with disabilities. So I'm going to, I'm excited to be able to share with you our 2 guest presenters. First, we're going to talk to Ron. I had the pleasure of being on a call with Ron yesterday where he shared with me a little bit of information about his experience in coming on to the SSD roles. And so I'd like to take a moment to recognize and welcome Ron.
Thank you much, Elizabeth. I appreciate this opportunity to tell my story. It's a scary time of your life and requires a huge leap of faith going forward with it. So I can provide some clarity and some peace of mind as the attendees pursue this avenue. Overview of my history. I live in Iowa. Some of what I'm talking about is governed by the state laws of Iowa, so they may be a little bit different depending on where you're at. I'm 56 years old. I was 54 when this process all started. I was employed as an upper-level manager in education, and I was diagnosed with primary progressive multiple sclerosis in June of 2008. So this kind of process all kind of happened kind of fast for me. Made it even scarier to take this huge leap of faith and pursue this, but it's worked out very well for me, and very satisfied with where I'm at with it right now. As the disease progressed, I had my very first negative performance review in 14 years. A 2-part process. In the second part of that process, I told my employer, well, first of all, I reviewed with an attorney what my options might be, just so I made sure I covered my bases. And then I told my employer my health condition. Not very receptive of that, and they're not at all overly eager to work with me. So my condition progressed further down. What I did after that, 2 months later, I had a visit with a neurologist, and in my performance review, and let her review that, and I gave a brief history of my, rather rapid downturn in health. And then after that, she agreed that she would put me on a full disability. That happened a lot faster than I expected. I wasn't quite prepared to face that prospects of not going there every day, but my health was to the point where I couldn't push it any longer. So 3 years I left, and my employer had paid for a short-term health insurance disability program, or a short-term disability program for me, and then paid out of my own pocket for a long-term disability program. So on a short-term disability program, I worked with our HRM person, the insurance company on that before leaving. As I said before, it required kind of a huge leap of faith on my part because I had nobody to turn to, nobody to ask questions, nobody to help me through this process. So it was just kind of like, well, let's just trust the system and hopefully it works out. So hopefully you guys will gain some insights today that this process does work. I was on a short-term disability program going through a lot of paperwork, with the insurance company to determine what my condition was and whether I would qualify for long-term disability. So that was like going on off and on for the first couple of months. Then they approved me for long-term disability, but asked me first of all if I wanted to go back to work. Well, my health wasn't to the point at that time where I felt like I could work, and my work was not in an environment that was going to be stable for me to get reduce stress and try to get healthier. So I chose to pursue the long-term disability approach. By that, my insurance company required me to file for SSDI. Now, I hired a company, Gen X Services, and they did the whole process for me. So I worked with Gen X Services over the phone and online, and we probably filled out the first application. We went through a barrage of paperwork and questions. The doctor's reports went back and forth. Leases had to be signed for doctors to talk to SSDI. And that process all went pretty smooth and pretty fluid. But they did first warn me that almost everybody is turned down the first time through. So don't be discouraged if you get turned down, because almost everybody gets turned down first time. And I did get turned down the first time, just as they suspected I would. So on trying to get healthier, and then we have filed an appeal decision. So that process went. It took about a month to go through that process, and again, same forms, paperwork, and they viewed all the doctor's stuff. During that time period, I had a diagnosis of cancer, and used that diagnosis of cancer as being my trigger for my SSDI. That happened to fall 4 days after the cut date for COBRA insurance extension, and that's something if you're going through this process, you might want to investigate a little bit and check into, because I had actually last June I lost my health insurance coverage, and I will get Medicare next July 2013. So getting some insurance then. Currently, I'm on a HIP Iowa program, which is the high-risk insurance pool for Iowa. And that covers my medical coverage at this point in time for kind of a stopgap thing. But I'd like to have kept my other insurance. It would have been a little simpler and a little easier. So the process went really pretty smooth for me. I didn't have many bumps. I was approved the second time, like I said, with a retroactive date. 5 months after that date, I started receiving SSDI checks, of which they subtracted that amount from my long-term disability. And 2 years from that date is when I am eligible for Medicare. So that process went really pretty smooth. I just really have too many issues with that. Back a little bit to the COBRA insurance, for me that's critical. Because I was on medications and it would be turned down by an insurance company. So I got my COBRA insurance and paid that health insurance cost out of my pocket for 8 months, which is required in order to get on the high-risk insurance pool. So those are things, if anybody's thinking about, you want to dive into a little bit closer and find out the rules and regulations on that. So I did that. I was subsequently not out of insurance. I was turned down by a health insurance company for continued insurance, which made me eligible for the high-risk pool. And then I started that last June, and I'll go through that in July next year. So I'll be on Medicare at that point in time. I know that's just kind of a brief overview of my process. All I'll really add is that it was a huge leap of faith to this unknown process without having anybody to talk to, nobody to go back to and ask, am I doing the right thing? And I just hope it works out. Well, it did work out fine, and your neurologist will be huge in this process. If they say you're eligible for disability, then they're behind you 100%. It's a matter of keep pushing SSDI until they approve your packet. That's about all I have. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you so much, Ron. I think it's just wonderful that you're so willing to share your story with everyone and that you are able to kind of dissect how you went through that process. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Now, we have another speaker online, and I have to say I apologize to everyone. I am feverishly showing my stress through the chat box, and I'm so apologetic and hope you can ignore my random comments out that have gone to all participants instead of to Nakia probably. But I just apologize so deeply. We did have another speaker that we were hoping to have on the line. She's having a lot of trouble calling in, and so rather than us continuing to try to overcome that tech problem, I'm just going to share a little bit of her story. When I had a chance to meet last year, and she was somebody who had been looking for work and who was considering returning to work, but was also receiving SSDI. And she has since received employment and been with that employment for, I think, 2 years now. And we talked, she said, Elizabeth, are you sure you want me to talk? Because I think I'm a little grumpy right now because I'm ready for a better paying job. And well, that's a great position to be in compared to being at the point where you're not quite sure you're ready or you're not quite sure how to go about obtaining a job. So I think that's a really great process and movement for her. And she's a really wonderful speaker, so I'm sorry that she didn't make it to us today. So we have about 8 more minutes, and I have a few more slides that I want to share with you and then try to address some of your questions. This is that there are some opportunities to provide you with assistance with accommodations. Accommodations can be important for you if you're on a job now or when you think about returning to work. They can also be helpful to you as you think about whether or not you're ready to return to work. One of the things that could be taking place for you is you kind of are recognizing some of the limitations that you have on the job, but you may not be sure how you would overcome those limitations. And these 2 websites can be really helpful to you in that. The first is called JAN, the Job Accommodation Network. JAN is a federally funded contract from the Department of Labor, and their whole purpose is to help people understand how to provide job accommodations and how to request job accommodations. If you go up to askjan.org, you can view success stories, you can ask questions. There's a plethora of materials up there. Again, remember, you don't only have to go up there when you're ready to ask for an accommodation. You can go up there to think about, how would I do that job task if I were asked to? There is the ADA National Network. Every region has an ADA center, and these centers are there to help people understand their obligations under the Americans with Disabilities Act, but they are also there to help the community members better understand what the ADA can do for you and how you can be an active participant in the Americans with Disabilities Act. I'd like to share with you some suggested next steps. These are some activities that we would suggest you take on so that you can start to think about a return to work, and you can make an informed choice about what you would like to do when you're thinking about work and either going on to SSDI or utilizing SSDI in a return to work. The first thing we'd like to suggest you do is register or at least visit with one of these employment support programs we talked about. Vocational rehabilitation, the Department of Labor one-stop centers, or the Social Security Ticket to Work program. We'd also like to suggest that you seek out and meet with a benefits planner. And we realize this might be more challenging in some areas than others. I give you that link to Social Security's formerly funded benefit planning programs, but that this is just a starting point. Unfortunately, there's no one catch-all place to list all of the benefit planners across the country. But if you're not able to locate them through this resource, then you can reach out to me, and I will do my best to help you to locate one. We'd like you to set a goal to complete items 1 and 2 over the next 3 months. Of course, this information will be archived and available to you at other points in time, but we think the next 3 months just to keep your momentum going. And we hope you'll share with us your experience. At the end of our webinar series, we're going to email out to everybody who registered to ask you to participate. What did you learn? Did you even follow these suggested next steps, and how did that go for you? And we use this information to help us define what we hope will be a 2013 webinar series, and also to help us locate individuals like Ron, someone who responded to our request to share your experience with us, and it's how we knew he would be a good participant to share his personal story with you today. The contact information, I'm going to leave this up for you so that you can review it. And you're welcome to email me if you have questions about today's webinar or if you have questions that come up in the future. In the meanwhile, I'm going to tackle a couple of the questions that came in. We're not going to be able to do all of them because we did get a lot of questions. We're going to look to see if we can handle some of them. So if you work but you do not earn enough money monthly to reach the $720 per month that would count towards the trial work period, do you continue to receive full benefits indefinitely? And the answer is, well, it would depend. Your ability to receive benefits is based upon not only whether or not you're working, but whether or not you continue to meet Social Security's definition of disability, that you continue to have both a documented medical disability and proof that that documented medical disability limits your ability to work. But if we just look at earnings alone, yes, if you were under $720 per month, you would not be using up your trial work period, and you would essentially remain on benefits indefinitely. But there are 2 things I would add to that. One is that if you're on the line and you previously worked, so it's not your first time making your return to work, it's possible that you used up your trial work period in the past. You only get one, just a few special circumstances in which you may get more than one trial work period. But typically you get one trial work period, and before 2000, the trial work period amount was very small. So you have already used up your trial work period, and you can find out by, again, making an appointment with a claims representative and working with them to understand what they have on record as your work effort thus far, and whether or not you have already used up that trial work period. The other I'd like to make is that this person actually makes a pretty good point. If you are not ready to really test your work skills, then you may want to consider being really thoughtful about your trial work period. It's really your one shot to really push the envelope about how much you want to work and whether or not you're going to be able to work and earn at a level that would allow you to come off of the Social Security rolls. That came in is, how is attending college considered as far as trial work period or substantial gainful activity? The answer is that trial period and substantial gainful activity are really looking at your effort for pay. Go to school, impact, it does show that you're earning at a level to use up your trial work period, or that you're earning at a level to achieve SGA. The fact that you acquire certain skills during school may be considered at another point in time, but in relation to trial work period and whether or not you're over or under SGA, attending college is not a consideration. I asked a question that says, I do some freelance work. I may make more than the $720 in a month, but most times not. When I'm paid, I get the full gross amount and then a 1099 at the end of the year. How could that affect SSDI? To me, that's a special circumstance that reflects some efforts around self-employment, and you would want to, again, talk with a benefits planner or the Social Security local office. As SSDI considers self-employment differently, they look at hours of work for the trial work period, and they look at net earnings beyond that time. So if you're on the line and you are participating in or you're thinking about self-employment, it's important that you, again, meeting with a benefit planner or meeting with the local Social Security office so that you can better understand how those rules apply to you. Another question we had is, does the trial work period apply only to those enrolled in the Ticket to Work program or to all SSDI recipients? The answer is that the trial work period is not a part of the Ticket to Work program exclusively. It applies to all individuals, and actually all of the work incentives we discussed apply to whether or not you use your Ticket to Work. So just as a reminder, the Ticket to Work program only does two things. It gives you access to employment networks, which are organizations that have signed up with Social Security to serve you in your return to work. And it gives a suspension of your continuing disability review when you are actively using your ticket. That's it. The Work program doesn't do anything else. It doesn't subtract to any of the other work incentives. If you're not ready to assign your ticket to work, it's voluntary, so that's okay. If you are ready, it will give you access to employment networks that are looking to support you under the Ticket to Work program, and it will give you a suspension of your continuing disability review. The time, it's now 4:32. We do have some other questions to ask, and I'm going to copy them and send the individuals that sent them emails so you can have your questions answered. But at this time, we're going to wrap up our webinar. I want to again thank Ron for being our special guest presenter and thank Nika for her work on this call. I also want to thank all of you for logging on today. It's really such a privilege for us to be able to provide this information to you with great thanks to our sponsor, Accorda Therapeutics. And if you have any questions moving forward, I hope you will reach out to us so that we can support you as you think about either going on to the SSDI roles or already on and you're thinking about making a return to work. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us today. Have a wonderful rest of your afternoon.